Big relief for the army major who was named in an FIR for shooting civilians in Shopian in Kashmir, which led to 3 deaths. Major Aditya's father petitioned the top court a few days ago and today got relief, with the Supreme Court asking for a pause, saying no coercive action for at least a fortnight. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Karamveer Singh, a Kargil War veteran, said the FIR against serving army personnel has a numbing effect on the morale of soldiers operating against odds in inhospitable terrains to uphold the dignity of the Indian flag. Of course, the state government has been fighting for those civilians there and said that the army has been denying that the army was firing there in self-defense.
There will be no coercive action against Major Aditya Kumar. With these words, the Supreme Court stayed the FIR against the Major, who's accused in the death of 3 civilians in Jammu and Kashmir's Shopian last month. The court's order after the Major's father, Lieutenant Colonel Karamveer Singh, filed a petition asking the court to cancel the FIR, calling it bad in law. He also claimed that his son, Major Aditya, was not even present at the spot during the firing.
An FIR is registered, not leaving aside those people who are actually perpetrators of these heinous offences, and you name the major who's leading that army convoy in exercise of its bona fide duties in the FIR. There is serious perversity and serious illegality.
It's very favourable thing. Court have already told that no coercive action to be taken against the officer.
Major Aditya Kumar was named in the FIR filed by the Jammu and Kashmir police. The army has always maintained that its soldiers opened fire in a desperate situation, trapped by more than 200 stone-throwing protesters. In his petition to the Supreme Court, Major Aditya's father said, "The Armed Forces Special Powers Act is operational in Jammu and Kashmir. The police cannot file an FIR. My son was doing his duty to protect soldiers. My son carried out orders of his superiors only. The FIR reflects the extremely hostile atmosphere in Jammu and Kashmir. There is no FIR against those involved in stone pelting. An investigation should be carried out in another state."
The court, after hearing arguments, has issued notice to the state of J&K and also to the Union of India to be represented by the Attorney General, because the matter is rather serious and has immense proportions.
In Kashmir, however, the ruling PDP, an ally of the BJP, who backed the FIR, says that they continue to back it.
Government has not withdrawn its orders. FIR has not been withdrawn, but court has a right to hear both the parties, and then we'll expect a decision and we'll follow the rest of the things.
Further hearing likely to take place next month. The final outcome in this case will have a huge impact on the law that gives immunity to armed forces in J&K. With Nasir Masoodi in Srinagar, this is Arunachalam Vaidyanathan for NDTV.
And in fact, this very FIR against Major Aditya was a question that was posed to the defence minister in that press conference that Nirmala Sitharaman had a short while back. And what she said was that they will defend the army and will not let anyone down.
I understand today the Supreme Court, in response to the father of the major, has given a 15-day stay on the FIR itself. We'll have to see how it goes. We stand by our proud soldiers and army, and in the call of duty, if they have performed some things, it will have to be contextualized.
And that's what we're looking at this evening. Let me introduce other guests now joining us. Aishwarya, the advocate, the Supreme Court, also lawyer for Major Aditya, is with us on the program. Siddiq Wahid, the former VP Islamic University Science and Technologies, also joining us. We, of course, have General Hasnain and Brigadier Gupta with us on this. Aishwarya, let me start by asking you, ma'am, this is, of course, a big relief, but just explain this to us, ma'am. This is only for a period of 2 weeks. What happens at the end of the fortnight?
So, the court has issued notice to the respondents, which is J&K Government, Union of India, the DGP of Police of J&K. They have asked the governments to respond within 2 weeks' time, and it's an interim order, of course, till the time that the governments respond. The court has also asked us to serve a copy of the petition on the Office of Attorney General and requested the Attorney General to get back to the court. They have also, like you've reported, stayed any coercive action to be taken against Major Aditya in pursuance of this FIR. So essentially, the interim order is till the next date when the court will, on response of the governments, hear the matter further. But the important takeaway from today is the court has taken cognizance of the petition. The court has somewhere seen the gravity of the issues that are involved and asked the government also to be represented at the highest level through Attorney General for India.
Right, we saw that, and of course we also heard Rohatgi there saying that this is a very serious matter, which is why that needs to happen. Siddique Wahid, sir, if I could get you in at this stage, to all those who are then asking this evening that should the state government then withdraw this FIR against Major Aditya, where would you stand on this, sir?
I'm sorry, I can't hear your question at all, because I've had, first of all, there's a big lag, and then between the voice and the picture. Okay. And secondly, I can't hear you clearly, so I didn't hear the question. Okay,
let me just try and ask again, sir. I'm trying to ask you, if given what has happened in Court A, and now what the Defence Minister has said about standing by the army and not letting anyone down, if those who are raising questions on whether the state government should withdraw this FIR against the army major, where do you stand on this, sir?
I mean, you know, where is there to stand on it, if I've heard your question correctly, because it's still not very clear. But what this whole thing means is that it is not just standing by the army, it is also standing by the army to the extent that you will not even have inquiries made into how the army behaves. I mean, this is way over and above AFSPA, if I can see, you know, that, and is even more constraining than AFSPA. And I think that, you know, to feel the sort of anger that you feel in Kashmir is not at all surprising. I mean, given the direction that this is going in, this is becoming even more radical in terms of curbing the rights. I mean, the rights of parents to know how 3 of their children were killed. I mean, you know, 3 parents, sets of parents, wanting to know how their children have been killed. And this cannot be done, according to, you know, now the government of India.
Brigadier Gupta, would you respond to that?
Apart from the irony of the fact that you...
Brigadier Gupta, could I get you in on that? What about those 3 people who've died? What about the families of those 3 men who've died? Should they then, for all those who are asking, should they then go to the Supreme Court and said, we want to know what happened?
Firstly, if you give me an uninterrupted time, yes, I will like to put the entire thing in correct perspective. As far as the FIR is concerned, even under the AFSA, there was a ruling by the Supreme Court in April 2017, which said that whenever there's a death due to army operations in areas under AFSA, lodging of FIR is mandatory because this is culpable. Inquiries can take place. Thereafter, whether they have to be blamed or not will be decided later. But lodging of FIR is mandatory. In this case also, FIR should have been launched by the concerned SHO. But Mehbooba Mufti, for reasons best known to her, tried to politicize the issue, which backfired on her. Chief Minister was not involved in it. The government of J&K was not involved in it. It was merely the matter to be handled by the SHO. The point in discussion is, why was not the stone pelters also, FIR lodged against the stone pelters also? That is the anger. That is the anger among the people in Jammu and the other parts of the state. Now, as far as these 3 innocent, I won't call them innocent children, they are the ones who are hurling missiles, stone missiles. They are as good as weapons. So they are the ones who attacked. They are the attackers. Actually, they should have been taken to task rather than the army being taken to task.
Okay, and that really is something that Bhakti and the team of lawyers has argued in that petition as well. But it's a very complex situation there on the ground in Kashmir. So, you're of course aware, of all of you aware, you know, about the mistrust, the deep mistrust and the fault lines. General Hussain, come in here at this stage. You know, is it really too much to ask for everyone, for army, especially for the families of those 3 young men, to want to know just what happened here? But when we talk about a probe of this kind, nothing ever yields any answers. We just never know. There have been several probes by the army also, but doesn't that also make the situation more frustrating, that the truth never really comes out?
Tasha, I don't think it's very correct to say that the truth never comes out. I have served in Kashmir for many years in different appointments, in different capacities at the lower ground level and the highest commander level. I can assure you I've seen thousands of FIRs being lodged against the army. But as Brigadier Anil Gupta very correctly says, these remain at the SHO level. There are magisterial inquiries. Subsequently, the cases are processed up the channels. They go where they have to. If a prosecution is required under AFSPA, you have to go back to the central government to carry out a prosecution. So to think that Major Aditya can be prosecuted is absolutely incorrect. He cannot be prosecuted. It has to go back to the central government. If the central government feels convinced that there's a case for prosecution, they can give a sanction for prosecution. So therefore, to that extent, I completely agree with what Brigadier Anil Gupta says. But I want to add one more issue here.
Okay.
This whole thing has to be seen in the correct context. Why no one protested against FIRs in the past, as I was referring to, is the simple reason that, it was never politicized. And suddenly you find that with thousands of stone pelters with FIRs against them, those are being withdrawn. And you're finding the nation protesting that why are those FIRs being withdrawn? Suddenly in that context, you suddenly find a situation where a young major from 10 Garhwal Rifles, in a situation where his men are about to be lynched, not just stone throwing, they are about to be lynched. And an FIR is lodged against them. This is the reason why you find the nation up in arms. It is the comparison, it is the contextual comparison of today. And that is what has given rise to this whole burning issue at the moment.
I'm not entirely also convinced that the nation is really up in arms. There are, of course, strong views, but I take the point that you're making. Aishwarya Bhati, ma'am, if I could just take this back to you, should the families of those who died also not know the truth? To all those who are also asking this question, what would you say, ma'am? I mean, one of the, somebody even said that should they not be the ones going to the Supreme Court? Don't they deserve any answers?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They must come to the court. I think they should absolutely come to the court, but they should also explain that why they were throwing stones on the army convoy that was going about doing its duties peacefully. They should also say why the JCO who got down to reason with them, why did they snatch his weapon and try to lynch him? They should also say why these soldiers were attacked and so many of the soldiers were injured. What exactly happened? And why this FIR is peculiar? Let me tell you, Natasha, this FIR is peculiar because the people who are indulging in anti-national and terrorist activities, because the acts that they have done, some of us want to believe that stone pelting is innocuous. It is not innocuous. It comes in the definition of terrorism activities. And you don't name them. The administration does not name people who are actually indulging in anti-terrorist activities, where the army is actually, this convoy is going peacefully. They are going about in exercise of their duties. And for bona fide duties, if they are going to attack, there is a regime that's laid down. Nobody is running away from an inquiry. Nobody is running away from an FIR. FIR ought to have been registered in generic terms. There ought not to have been any officer named in the FIR. The AFSPA has a regime that is followed. Only after an inquiry is made that whether the army has operated in terms of the standard operating procedures or have they gone beyond their bona fide duty. So the difference here is bona fide duty and non-bona fide duty, excessive use of force. But you can't have an FIR naming a major who's heading that convoy. These are very, very serious issues. And an FIR is registered without looking at the whole issue.
These are, of course, important questions that you raise.
Under her authority.
These are, of course, important questions that you raise. The army has a very tough task on its hand, but such is the feeling on the ground. People really feeling alienated on their own land, in their own state. This is, of course, a very, very complex situation. You make that point about stone pelters. They are, of course, throwing heavy rocks, but very often it's just ordinary people.
I just want to make one more point, Natasha.
Who are caught in the
crossfire. We have to realize that
yes.
Indian army.
Go ahead.
I want to make one more point, Natasha, quickly, that we are talking about an army which is the most, world over, it's one of the most respected, most fair and most professional armies in the world. We are not like Pakistan army that we run the civilian administration, we run the political government, we even run the Supreme Court of the country. Indian army, it follows orders of the civilian government. They are not interested in, these are not their battles. And once you give them a mandate, you have to protect them in their bona fide duties. Because they are there protecting the dignity, the very freedoms that we enjoy. The soldier is ready to lay his down.
Okay, I of course I agree, but again, coming back to the point that this is not a black or white situation. You would agree, Brigadier Gupta. There are no winners in any of this. Like I said, there are people, innocent people, hundreds and thousands of them who've also got caught in the crossfire, long from the state whose land it is, but really feel alienated in a sense. To all those who are saying that this is a complete failure, really, of the centre, of the state government in dealing with this alienation. What are we doing about it? What would you say, sir?
No, you see, the question of alienation does not arise. This is a self-created problem. As far as I am concerned, Jammu and Kashmir is a settled issue. Jammu is an integral part of India, will always be an integral part of India. These power brokers of Kashmir, who have been always to remain in power,
but the political establishment has let them down, has let the people down, sir.
And cheating the Kashmiri
These
people.
Are our people.
They have been cheating the Kashmiri people. They are the ones who are responsible for the presence of the state. There's no alienation.
Okay.
But the youth is confused. The youth is bewildered. Youth doesn't know what to do.
Because there's been a failure of the political establishment.
Okay,
because there has been a failure also of subsequent governments, of the establishment. But just give me a moment there. Siddiq Wahid is back with us. Fortunately, on the phone line this time. We had trouble with that link there. Wahid, thanks so much for your time and for joining us again on this. Just coming back to the point that this is a situation where, like I said, that there are no winners, unfortunately. There are only losers and bigger losers, given what we've seen, given how this is this is now playing out. How do you see this situation, sir, going forward? There, of course, a very complex situation on the ground now, just getting sort of, in a sense, grayer with every passing day.
Well, I mean, how I see the situation going forward is, if I could predict that, then I'd be bucking for the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, let me tell you, we have a very bad situation on the ground. I don't think that Delhi knows half of how bad it is. And you think about it today. I mean, we just heard about what is peculiar about this FIR. I think what is really peculiar is that a Delhi sort of, friendly, if you will, a Delhi-friendly government in J&K is backing an FIR against the Delhi government. That is what is peculiar. That is what shows the contradictions that exist in Kashmir. And the fact that it should get to this stage and this kind of contradiction is exactly what the problem is. And I think that unless you address the problem at its very roots, this situation continues. We know for a fact that today the government in Delhi is not interested in talks either with Kashmir or with Pakistan. So where do we go from here? And let me tell you, I mean, a lot of the sentiment over here is that, this is an attempt to start a war. I mean, given the situation today, I was at a hospital trapped for about 6 hours because of a relative who was unwell. And it was because of sort of an encounter that was taking place in and around the hospital. This is how the situation is in Kashmir today. So I think that, FIRs and all of that notwithstanding, these are all, I think, webs that we have woven around ourselves, and quite frankly, challenges all logic as to how today we are standing at an FIR filed by one wing of the government, of one state government against a central government, and also in the hope that the central government somehow will give you permission to prosecute, which is not going to happen, has not happened, and will not happen after AFSPA.
Okay. General Hussain, come in here at this point, sir. I'm sorry to wrap, but come in here at this point, sir. Respond to that comment by Siddiq Wahid. Is there a disconnect? And we've been hearing this for ages from Kashmir. Is there a disconnect between what's happening on the ground and Delhi's perception?
See, Natasha, there will always be a slight disconnect because you have a mainstream party in power in Delhi, and you've got a regional party in coalition with the mainstream party in Kashmir. And obviously the Kashmir Valley is under the greater control of the PDP. So these contradictions have always been there. These contradictions will continue to be there. We have to go ahead and find solutions for it. I think in the current context, there's no point trying to complicate the issue by bringing in all kinds of extraneous factors into it. I think let's leave it to the Supreme Court at this time. I would strongly, of course, bat for the withdrawal of the FIR against Major Aditya, who is one of my own officers. And I think I have the greatest confidence in the Supreme Court of India. In a democracy, when we are all at daggers drawn with each other, we all like to go back to the Supreme Court. And I think the Supreme Court will find a solution to it.